So we're at 8 games tonight. Now this is kind of capacity as far as the sport's concerned for this kind of setup. So I apologize if the writing's kind of a little small. Pittsburgh's in Buffalo. Now I've underlined the teams that are the favorites, or should be the favorites. You would think would be the favorites. Pittsburgh would be the favorite against Buffalo. Now, the other thing I've done with these numbers today is I've wiped out overtime losses. So we're just going straight wins, losses. Overtime losses, shootout losses, I'm counting them as losses just to show win-loss records and how, with the system that the NHL uses, it does make it so that teams' records look closer to 500 than they are. So I'm not doing this as a way to slam anybody or make certain teams look great. It's just a different way of looking at it. I try to make sure I have a different way of looking at it every day because you guys can get previews on any other channel, whether it's on YouTube or it's on TV, and I just try to add a little bit of something different. Pittsburgh's won its last 2 to get back to 500. Buffalo's lost its last 2. They're nowhere near 500. Top scorer for Pittsburgh that's going to be in this game. These are top scorers that should be playing tonight. Phil Kessel, 26 games, 11 goals, 21 assists, 32 points. Does anybody have Kessel listed as a guy who might score 100 points? No? Well, he could. He absolutely could. Evander Kane is the leader. 25 games, 12 goals, 11 assists, 23 points. Of course, as we get closer to trade deadline, there will be more discussions on Evander Kane and what kind of a massive haul Buffalo may be looking for in order to trade him. If they don't keep him long term, and I honestly don't understand why they wouldn't. He's been very good for them. And I mean that. And I'm not an Evander Kane fan. I know anytime he gets mentioned in connection with Vancouver, I kind of go nuts because I don't want to see him in Vancouver. But he fits well with Buffalo. And he's having a very good season for them, and I don't understand why they wouldn't keep him. When I see guys get sold off at the deadline, especially when it's a star player, my first thought is, are the pieces they get back going to equal the guy they're losing? And when the answer is no, I sometimes find it kind of foolish that they didn't try harder, they didn't find a way to make it work and keep that guy on their team. A little bit of a flicker there. Now, Ottawa is in New York against the Islanders. So, I'll go ahead and track that. So, Ottawa comes into this game with a pretty poor win-loss record. And the Islanders are doing really well. Now, the interesting thing is, and I always think about my power rankings now when it comes to these games, the Islanders are the only team in that top row that hasn't been experiencing some setbacks. So, barring... Basically, if Ottawa wins tonight, I kind of get myself out of a situation where the Islanders could be number 1 by the end of the week. It could happen. They're not number 1 right now. Don't panic. But they could be. And that would be weird to me, too. Their number 1 scorer is Tavares, and they should be favored to win this game. 24 games, 16 goals, 12 assists, 28 points for Tavares. Stone is having a very good season for the Ottawa Senators. 23 games, 14 goals, 10 assists, 24 points. Ottawa's lost 7 in a row. The Islanders have won 4 in a row. And in terms of in net, I should have mentioned this too. With Pittsburgh, it's Jarry against Lehner, and and with Ottawa, it's Anderson against Grice. Anderson has to start playing better as soon as tonight. They need. And again, I'm not trying to slag anybody. It's just when teams are so close and there's so little difference between a really good team and just a good team, you have to get any advantage you can get. And Anderson hasn't been that advantage for the Senators. So he's got to start getting there. And tonight's a good night to start because they're in New York against the Islanders, and that's not an easy task. Now, Anaheim's in Columbus. So Anaheim, 11-14, Columbus 16-9. Bobrovsky at the time that I'm recording this from Daily Faceoff, they didn't have Bobrovsky confirmed. Gibson's confirmed for the Ducks. Both teams won their last game. Corey Perry's the leading scorer who will play. Raquel's their leading scorer, but he's out. Perry, 4 goals, 13 assists, 17 points in 25 games. Panarin's the number 1 scorer for Columbus. 5 goals, 11 assists, 16 points in 25 games. Panarin has not scored at the level that I thought he would. and he misses Patrick Kane, clearly, more than I thought he would. And him and Perry, it's funny because their stats are very similar, and both were expected to score more than they have thus far. Panarin on pace for about 50 points, Perry on pace for about 55. And if those are your leading scorers, this could end up being a very low-scoring game. But remember, Anaheim allows a lot of shots. I've watched Anaheim games and watched that shot clock, and I've been amazed at just how regular it's shot after shot. Like there doesn't seem to be a period where they play 5 minutes without allowing a shot or 3 minutes without allowing a shot. It's just constant. So Gibson can't drop his guard for a minute. He has to be on it all the time because there's always going to be shots coming at him. And the New York Islanders I'm over here. Columbus is a team that can score goals. Well, Panarin's the number one scorer with 16 points. They can score by committee. They've got a very good offensive blue line as well. So this could be a game where Gibson could face as many as 50 shots. I could see 50 shots being directed at Gibson. I could see 70 shot attempts by the Islanders, get out of the Islanders, Shannon. Columbus. 70 shots being directed by Columbus at the Anaheim Ducks net. We'll see. If Bobrovsky's in net against Gibson, that's an edge for Bobrovsky. But it's not as much of an edge as people might think. Gibson's playing very well. He just, as I said, it's been a shooting gallery. I feel bad for the guy. Now, Carolina is playing the Rangers. And what we've got here is Darling and Lundqvist. The Carolina Hurricanes 10-13. Rangers 13-12. Both of them lost their last game. Teravainen's the leading scorer for Carolina. 23 games, 8 goals, 13 assists, 21 points. Buchnevich, the highest scoring points producer for the Rangers who will play. Zibanejad is likely out tonight, so therefore Buchnevich, 25 games, 9 goals, 11 assists, 20 points. Notice I'm saying likely because every now and then somebody will end up in the lineup that's even reported as, oh, he's going to be out for a while, and then somehow he ends up in the lineup and I look stupid. So I'm just saying likely just as a cover. Teravainen's quietly having a very good season. Part of the reason I'm doing this with leading scorers is because there are guys having quietly good seasons, and maybe I don't talk about them enough. Teravainen is one of those guys who has kind of become what the Blackhawks thought he would be when they drafted him. When scouts said the Blackhawks got another steal in the draft, Teravainen was a cap casualty in that in order to take a bad contract from Chicago, Carolina said we want Teravainen, and Chicago said okay, sure. I don't know that they redo that deal if they had to do it right now, but hey, hindsight's 20/20. And Buchnevich has had a decent season for the Rangers. He's actually showing signs of becoming the player that during his rookie season some people had doubts that he'd actually become. I like the guy personally. I think he's got a good nose for the net. And I think with Lundqvist and with a decent team that the Rangers have, the only thing holding them back is that center spot. And that's a big only thing to be missing, is that really good top-notch center. If only there was a guy who's going to be a free agent this summer that they could get. I even heard it mentioned on, I think it was on Hockey Night in Canada, where they speculated for 2 seconds, well, what about Tavares to the Rangers? Would that work? And like, no, he'll never go to the Rangers. Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. So I don't want to take favorites in this game. I know the Rangers will be favored, much like Columbus, the Islanders, and Pittsburgh will be favored. But favored doesn't mean a whole lot. Canucks beat Nashville last night, so we're in bizarro world this season, boys and girls. San Jose's in Florida in a game that features a team that's on its way up against a team that's also on its way up. Florida's won its last 2. Luongo's in net against Arundel. This is a good game for Florida in terms of looking for a game they can win. Okay, and looking to get on a bit of a streak. Huberdeau, 24 games, 8 goals, 17 assists, 25 points. Remember, I said there are players that I haven't been talking about in videos who are having very good seasons. Huberdeau, point per game, that would be a huge step forward for him over a full schedule if he can stay healthy. That's insane. That would be a major step forward. And then there's other members of the Florida Panthers who could score a point a game this season as well over the whole season. We'll see just how far this can go. Couture's the leading scorer for the San Jose, 23 games, 13 goals, 8 assists, 21 points. And Logan Couture, while I may not like San Jose, Logan Couture is one of the great warriors in the NHL, and I think the guy is awesome. And I would love to see him at some point play for a team that I cheer for so I can go full-on Logan Couture fanboy. But as long as he's in San Jose. Anyways, not getting too far into that. I would be surprised if San Jose doesn't win this one, but I've been surprised before. The Kings are in St. Louis. And this is a key matchup. The Kings are on a 3-game winning streak. St. Louis lost their last game. St. Louis has started showing that there's always going to be a dog days during your season where you have that 5-10 game stretch that maybe you're 500 and you're playing well, you're just not getting the results. St. Louis is in that situation right now. Hutton's in net. It's likely quick for the Kings. The Kings have won 3 in a row. They're 15-11. St. Louis is 17-8. And leading scorers, Kopitar leads the way for the Kings. 26 games, 12 goals, 16 assists, 28 points. As Anze Kopitar says, rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. And Schwartz for St. Louis, 25 games, 13 goals, 19 assists, 32 points. He's on pace for over 100 points. Now, I don't think Schwartz gets over 100 points just because most players don't these days. But, man, he's having a monster season, and this could be a very fun game. The Kings, I would look for them to try to jump on St. Louis quickly because of the fact that they played last night in Washington. And on almost any occasion where a road team's on a back-to-back, they will show signs that they're on a back-to-back that last period of that second game. So they're going to want to build a lead in the first and the second over St. Louis. Because if it's a tie game going into the third, I would favor St. Louis heavily. The Kings, almost any team I've seen back-to-back on the road, they look tired in the third period. They start falling back. They don't get the shots or the scoring opportunities. It's just reality, right? That being said, I think that's going to be a very good game. That could be game of the night material. And yet, the game right next to it could very well be game of the night as well, which is Vegas in Winnipeg. Vegas has lost 2 in a row. Vegas hasn't faced adversity as a franchise ever. Not really. I mean, they've lost goalies, yep, and whoever comes in does well enough that they can still win. Now, Subban's highly likely tonight, unless something else is going on with him we don't know about. Hellebuck for Winnipeg. Vegas is 15-9. The Jets are 15-10. Jets are coming off of a loss. The leading scorer for Vegas is almost video worthy at this point. Carlson, 24 games, 13 goals, 10 assists, 23 points. I don't expect him to keep that up all year, but the fact that he's near a point a game is incredible. You look at the point totals he put up last year, and he was projected by any Hockey Pool magazine, anything I looked at online, he was projected for around 25-30 points for the season. 13 goals are more than he was projected to score for the season by most sources that I looked at. So he is having a fantastic year. This is one of those stories out of Vegas that you don't hear as much about because there are so many good stories. And Scheifele, quietly, 29 points in 25 games, 12 of those points are goals. Scheifele's just scoring on roughly a 95-point pace. He might score 95, 100 points. But again, whenever I talk up Scheifele and I discuss how amazing he is in almost every Winnipeg game I watch, there are people who say, well, Scheifele's good, but he's not really a mega superstar. He's not on that level. I think Scheifele's absolutely there. I think in Winnipeg, I think Scheifele is that star player. And if he was playing in Montreal or Toronto, or if he was playing with the Rangers, or he was playing with one of these more center of the universe type teams that has huge fan bases and everybody, micromanages and overanalyzes them, I think Scheifele would be poster boy, not necessarily for the entire league, but maybe in Canada if he played for Toronto or Montreal. If he played in Montreal, I really think he'd... it's reasonable to assume that if Scheifele played for the Montreal Canadiens right now, they'd have no problems. Their scoring would be set. He would be the leader. He would end up getting the captaincy, I would think, from Pacioretty. I think Pacioretty would hand it off to him if he was scoring like this for Montreal. I don't think Pacioretty would have a problem with that. He's very proud as captain, but I do think sometimes that Max Pacioretty wouldn't mind, handing it off to somebody else. I think he's waiting for somebody who can take that from him. I think Subban was always sort of considered the captain in waiting, and then he gets traded to Nashville and just shows the whole thing into chaos. And the final matchup of the night is the New Jersey Devils and the Colorado Avalanche. So you want to talk about two teams that are off to surprisingly good starts. Here they are, and they're against each other. The Devils 14-10, Colorado 12-11. Colorado won their last game, controversially, but they won it. Controversially for the fan base of the team that they beat. And New Jersey lost their last game. Taylor Hall is leading the way with 26 points in 24 games, 18 assists, 8 goals. And McKinnon leads the way, 28 points in 23 games, 8 goals, 20 assists. Now, when you look at these totals and you look at all of these scoring leaders, this is what makes it difficult for me sometimes to really encompass who's having a good year. Who's like, and I hear you don't talk about these guys enough or that guy enough. There are so many players right now statistically having fantastic seasons. There's almost not enough time. But I'm going to do my best to discuss that in an upcoming video in the next couple of days. Because, yeah, there are a lot of players that are having statistically fantastic seasons. And it's more than a couple. There are a lot of guys having point-per-game type seasons. And it is worth discussing. Because I think we're not going into a live puck era, but I think we're out of the dead puck era. I do. I am actually starting to think the dead puck era is a thing of the past. That this year marks the NHL finally either changing the game through the way that the rules are called so that there's more open ice for guys to skate and score, or there are so many young players in the league, as I've said before recently, that we're starting to see goals go up because young guys make mistakes. And so does Chris Russell, who's not a young guy. That he shot it into his own net. Anyways, yeah, I watched it this morning. I didn't see it last night. I watched it this morning. I had to watch it a few times. He shot it into his own net. I don't know. You're tied with a minute left. What are you doing? All you have to do is just throw it. If somebody did that and I was playing floor hockey with them, I would have lost my mind. What are you doing? We're tied. What are you doing? Don't do that. Schneider is likely, and Varlamov has been confirmed for Colorado. That should be a fun matchup, and I'll see how much of this I'm actually get to see tonight. Admittedly, I'm going to a Christmas party tonight. It's a family thing through my wife's church, so we're going to that. So full disclaimer. I will keep track of scores. I'll be able to do that better than I could last night at Perfect Circle, where if you had your phone out, they kicked you out of the concert, which was awesome. I love that. Do that at every concert, people. So obnoxious. As I said, I put red lines under the teams that should be favored tonight. I think there's going to be upsets. If I had to pick an upset of the night, I wouldn't be surprised if Anaheim goes in and slags a loss on Columbus. Anaheim should be kind of hyped, and Adam Henrique should be kind of hyped playing his first game in a new city and new style. And traditionally, when people go from New Jersey to Anaheim, they start scoring more points. Remember Niedermayer? Yeah. That's the one I'm talking about. It's just Scott Niedermayer. I don't have some clever total to show you guys up here about guys going from New Jersey to Anaheim and becoming stars. Just Niedermayer becoming more of a point producer. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how Adam Henrique does in his debut, and if that does make the difference for Anaheim. Their issues at center are noticeable, and Getzlaf can be back middle of December, and then Kessler hopefully soon after that. And I say hopefully, while I'm not a Kessler fan, I do like to see everybody healthy. I want to see all of these teams fighting it out with as healthy a roster as possible, so that at the end of the day, we don't have an excuse as to why Team A won over Team B. Because especially when it comes down to playoff positions, it kind of sucks when your team misses the playoffs and you feel like injuries set you behind the 8 ball, and that's why you didn't make it. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.